So I think one of the big shifts that we saw was in 1989, 89.5% of Americans had the option for a pension through their company. And just 30 years later, in 2019, it dropped to 8.5%. What the 401k did is it put more responsibility on us. And I think we did a poor job of educating people that, hey, you're not going to have a pension anymore. Now it's up to you. And one of our goals is just to educate people and help them make sure that they're getting the information they need so that after 30, 40 years of working hard, they can retire with the same or a greater lifestyle. One of the stats that I just read from Fidelity, which many of you know is the largest 401k plan holder, 52% of Americans are not on track for retirement. And I think one of the things that we see on a weekly basis as we serve families and meet with new families is we see so many people that can't believe that they're going to be 65 years old someday soon and wanting to retire. It's not about getting there today, but are you on track? And I think what we found is a lot of people can get on track just by being disciplined, making the decision once, and then managing that decision. And I think what I found is most people, if they do a good budgeting plan, and I know people hate the word budget, but most people have an extra $400 to $600 a month. If they're just intentional with their eating out, not paying for cell phone bills that aren't theirs, 10, 15, 20 years, they're in a totally different spot because of compounding interest. So one of the things that we see often is people set up a 401k, they picked investments 10, 15, 20 years ago, they've never rebalanced. Maybe they're in a target account that does some rebalancing, but they've never done a review to say, how are my 401k funds doing? Are they performing well?
Sometimes people come in and they think that they're very well diversified. And they think that because they have statements from, I don't want to say the companies, but let's say they have statements from a few different companies, and they think that that means that they're diversified. And in our experience, what we found is someone wants to be diversified. So maybe they give half of their assets to one advisor, the other half to the other advisor, and they want to see who's going to do better because maybe ultimately they think they're going to move all their assets to the advisor that outperforms the market. And what we find is when we compare their assets, they might be overexposed to a specific sector. Maybe now they have too much in the S&P 500. Maybe now they have too much in emerging markets, right? They're not coordinated. They're not communicating with each other. And ultimately what it creates is an inefficiency that could lead to a lower return over time. It's sometimes they've just loaded their accounts with a million different mutual funds, right? So we're looking at 50 different mutual funds or 50 different stocks. And sometimes what people don't realize is, even though you have a different mutual fund, it might be that the composition of that fund is very similar to the composition of another fund. And you're actually not achieving the diversification you're looking for. On average, most people with mutual funds, they're paying 1 to 1.5% in fees just to hold that fund, right? Some funds take it a step further, right? We have some funds that are front end loaded, right? Mutual fund A shares. We don't see so much of that now, but in the past, gosh, we'd see so much of that where somebody invests $100,000 into a fund or a family of funds, and on day one, they have $95,000. There's a 5% fee, an upfront sales charge or a commission that gets charged right up front, right? So now that couple has to dig themselves out of a hole.